In this video, we're talking about how the latest Steam Deck update turns your Steam Deck into a mini PS3. Then we're going to talk about how you can add grass to your Steam Deck so you can always be touching grass. And finally, there's some big movement going on with the Xbox's competition to Valve. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck. It's a news show where we go through all the biggest news stories related to the Steam Deck, and I promise they're all worth watching. But yeah, let's jump into this first news story here because there's a brand new Steam Deck update out. It's a small one. They're inching closer to SteamOS 3.8, which will be the one where SteamOS comes to other platforms. Like, people have installed it on the Legion Go S that you can buy with Windows on it. They've installed it on the ROG Ally X, myself included. And theoretically, once that's out, it will just work on any AMD equipped handheld or PC, which is awesome. The first big fix that comes along with this update is that they fixed graphical rendering issues with Avowed. I don't really get why, but the last few Xbox releases from Indiana Jones to Avowed, they've had launch issues with the Steam Deck, which is weird because, you know, Indiana Jones, it's a little tough to run, but it's on id Tech, so you'd think it would be scalable down to something like the Steam Deck. And then you look at Avowed, I mean, it has a nice art style, but it doesn't look like the most demanding graphically intensive game of all time. So it's just weird that Xbox isn't really trying their games out on Steam Deck before they release. I don't know why, outside of the fact that they're partnering up with Asus and Lenovo to try and turn Xbox into a competing platform. It's not like a conspiracy or anything. It's just like they're focusing on devices that use Windows first. And then when it comes to the Steam Deck, Valve is kind of left to put things together for them. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer. You got to wait for the Proton update or the Steam Deck update itself to allow these games to work correctly. But if you've been trying to play Avowed, I don't know how this game runs because it's like so far out of what I'm interested in, but maybe it works now with Valve's updates. Who knows? You should try it out and let me know down in the comments below. They've also fixed a performance issue with No Rest for the Wicked. I'm really interested in this game. It's from Moon Studios, and they just got the IP back from Private Division, which was like underneath 2K or Take-Two. Take-Two, yeah, it was underneath Take-Two, and it's like a indie-ish label. It's the label that put out The Outer Worlds 1. Before that was sold to Microsoft with Obsidian. So they got rid of that, and then No Rest for the Wicked's developers were able to buy it back. It's just one of those games that I would rather wait for it to be in 1.0 because it seems so good that I don't want to spoil myself with it, if that makes sense. But it's been consistently updated for the Steam Deck, and if you check the top ranking list or whatever, it's always very high up, so it's good to see it getting support. But the real update I'm excited about is that they've added DualShock 3 support. Now, interestingly, I thought the DualShock 3 worked when the Steam Deck came out, but it looks like at some point one of these updates broke support for the DualShock 3, and now that support is added back in. You know, immediately my mind jumped to RCPS3, right? Like emulating PS3 games, but I did a little bit of research, and while you can play some PS3 games pretty well on the Steam Deck, it's not really up to snuff in terms of where you'd want it to be with performance. But the DualShock 3 is just a better version of the DualShock 2, which is a better version of the DualShock from the PlayStation 1. So if you're someone like me who plays a lot of PS2 games emulated through EmuDeck and other platforms on the Steam Deck, it could be a really cool way to get extra nostalgic with your emulated PlayStation classic titles. The battery life on the DualShock 3 was insane. They've kind of fallen off with the DualShock 4 and the DualSense, but it would last so long just because, you know, it was such a cheap controller. Like, it wasn't really doing anything crazy. Like, it didn't have a touchpad, it didn't have LEDs, it didn't have haptic feedback or adaptive triggers, so the battery life was excellent on that thing. I'm pretty sure I've got a DualShock 3 kicking around, so that might make its way into my backpack as the default controller for when I'm playing old games on my Steam Deck. You know, when it comes to these old controllers, there's definitely a market there when it comes to bringing them back, like the Duke from Hyperkin, which is like a remake of the original Xbox's massive controller. I'm pretty sure there was an Xbox S controller remake as well. I just got to assume that Sony's got the designs locked down, like they're not allowing third-party publishers or hardware manufacturers to remake their old controllers. But like, I'm personally very nostalgic for that classic DualShock design. I like the DualSense the most, and I think the DualShock 4 was great, but there's just something awesome about that old design because it was used for the PS1, 2, and 3. So it's like you build an attachment to it if you play it on those consoles in sequence like I did. So yeah, a small update for the Steam Deck is out now. Valve throws these things out like crazy, so I'm sure we'll have another one next week. The features are getting smaller because they're obviously working on the big one, the 3.8 update that's going to unlock SteamOS for other platforms. It's almost there. It's just not quite there, as I talked about a couple videos ago. So we'll just have to wait and see. I'm just personally glad it doesn't work like the PS5, because if they put out a new firmware update for the PS5, you have to get it. You can't connect to the PSN unless you update the firmware of your console, which is super annoying because that's how they block jailbreaks. But on the Steam Deck, you could just wait forever. I mean, eventually it'll just update itself when you restart it, but if you're in the middle of a game, it's not going to like force quit it or anything to make you update the console, which is great. But that brings me to the second news story here, which is a cool accessory from Dbrand. I've talked about them a lot on the channel, mainly because of the kill switch. They announced that thing right when the Steam Deck came out. And when it comes to those like hard shell cases that have add-on attachments and everything like that, it seems like the kill switch is the one people go for. There's a few other ones out there, but this skin that they've created that works in tandem with the kill switch is awesome. So it's for April Fools. They're calling it the Touch Grass skin. And I like that it's not just a joke, you know, because all these companies, they do April Fools jokes where they go so far out of left field that you immediately know it's an April Fools joke. And then when they dial it in right, it's usually something that you want to be real and it isn't. Like Blood Dragon was famously announced on April Fool's Day, and Ubisoft waited months to actually say if it was real or not. They just wouldn't respond to IGN back in the day. But Dbrand, they usually come up with stuff that's real, and this time it's like a putting green type texture skin that you can put on your Steam Deck. Now, you have to buy it with the kill switch, and the bundle costs $64.99. They say it includes a special free gift, and then there's other add-ons you can do like stick covers and everything like that. But if you don't have a kill switch, this might be a cool skin to pair it with because it's like a soft looking grass texture. Like it's not just a 3D sticker. It's like grass textured AstroTurf, for lack of a better word. And it looks so nice. It's a nice shade of green. And honestly, I might grab it for my iPhone. I'm a famous no caser on my iPhone, and I've survived with my iPhone 14 Pro Max for this long, so I don't really need one, but I just really like the way that texture looks. My other favorite skin texture from Dbrand is the Damascus version. I used to have it equipped on my Razer Blade, and then I got a new one and I was like, I don't want to spend another $60 on a vinyl skin. You know, it's like pretty expensive for this stuff. But if you've been looking for a little bit of customizable flair to add to your kill switch, I guess you could pick up the Touch Grass Edition version of Dbrand skin. At the very least, you should check out the website that they created for it because it's honestly pretty cool. It's like a throwback to Windows 95 and it's actually interactable. And there's these cool pictures they've got all over it with their little robot looking like he's hanging out on the grass in the middle of the summer. And man, today's weather, crazy. It looked like a beautiful, nice day outside. Step outside. It's like the coldest winter air I've ever felt. So I don't know if I'm just like dying for summer or what, but I just thought this was cool. So maybe you'd want to check it out for your deck. But that brings me to the third news story I wanted to cover today because there's some updates surrounding Xbox's moves when it comes to competing with Valve and their Xbox OS Windows hybrid. So the first thing is there's a new Windows update out for Windows 11 that if you look in the language packs, it actually references the game mode that they're working on, and they're doing a cool thing that's kind of copying SteamOS where you'll be able to boot directly into this game mode interface. And interestingly enough, this goes back to a hackathon from 2022 where a Microsoft employee actually created a game mode for Windows that honestly looks a lot like the Nintendo Switch operating system. It's very similar also to the Series X operating system where it puts all the games in a row in like tiles or something like that. It shows all the launchable games that you have installed. And I could see this being, you know, a good flavor for whatever they're working on. And I do like that you have the capability, even in its early stage, to just boot right into this Windows sort of game mode, because I use my PC with a controller a lot playing games like Death Stranding or Ghost of Tsushima or anything except Hunt Showdown or a multiplayer FPS. So if I leave it plugged into my TV and I want to boot up Red Dead Redemption 2, it would be nice to be able to just boot into a game mode that looks like a TV gaming system operating system on my TV. This will also obviously help with things like the Legion Go, the Legion Go S, and the ROG Ally X. Like anything they can do to get these quality of life features that the Steam Deck has, like being able to type with a controller would be a good one. I know that they've added that in beta, but like actually baking it into their gaming operating system would be appreciated. One thing they could do that would really put them ahead of SteamOS, in my opinion at least, is allow your Windows PC to download games in the background, because that's like the most annoying part about the Steam Deck. It's like one of the only annoying things, honestly. Like when you boot up your Steam Deck, you want to go play a specific game, and then you see that there's like a 10 or 12 gigabyte patch. They download quickly, but some games for some reason reason take forever to actually install the patch. And at first, it was only the micro SD card that it would work like that on. Like Diablo 4 is like a notorious example of taking forever to actually patch this game, because every time they release an update, it seems like it downloads the entire game and has to reinstall it. And then the like fix for it that I came up with is to just initiate those downloads or patches right before I go to bed, leave my Steam Deck plugged in overnight because it's supposed to just turn the screen off when it's not active, aka done downloading stuff. But I'd wake up some mornings and the screen would just be on, and it's an OLED screen, so like I don't want it to get burning. So now there have been plenty of times where I get done with my work day, I go upstairs to play some games on my Steam Deck, I notice that it has a ton of downloads, I just initiate them and then move over to my main gaming PC. So if Microsoft can figure out with Windows 11's new Xbox mode how to let it download while it's in sleep mode, that might put a fire under Valve's butt to figure this out. I remember talking about this back when the Steam Deck came out and people posted that it was like a Linux problem overall, not just like a SteamOS problem, but like it's a cool feature. Like that's one of the best parts of the Nintendo Switch, is that when you leave it docked, it downloads games in the background. I think it'd be cool if Valve could figure that out. So if Microsoft does it, maybe that will inspire Valve to figure it out. And sticking with the Xbox updates, there was a weird sort of tweet from the ROG Ally account or the Asus account where they were talking about a new hardware reveal, and then Xbox responded to it. So that clearly is whatever the Project Kennen is that Xbox has been working on with Asus. Now you get a pretty decent glimpse at it in the background, and it might be announced by the time this video comes out. But if you look at it, it's literally just an ROG Ally or Ally X, and it's probably going to be like the Legion Go S and have an Xbox button included. It's exactly what the leak said, and so there's nothing really new to talk about there. It's just interesting because if it is just an ROG Ally without the gaming mode launched with it, it's like, why wasn't this the original version, right? Like, is Microsoft going to subsidize some of the cost to make it cheaper? Is it going to have a Z2 Extreme chip? I know they don't have that out yet, but maybe Microsoft is holding it back, like they bought an exclusive marketing deal or something like that. Who really knows what's going on with this new partnership with Microsoft and Asus? But I just like, if it does have a Z2 Go or a Z1 Extreme, I don't see a lot of hype being built for it. Like even with a marketing push from Microsoft, it's still a pretty old chip at this point because, you know, chip manufacturing moves pretty damn fast. So I think it's really just Asus kind of noticing what Lenovo did, where they partnered up with Valve to get the Legion Go S to have a Steam version that's going to launch with SteamOS. And they're like, maybe people are going to want that. So we should partner up with Xbox and Microsoft to make sure we at least have something that's officially branded, because as like kind of tarnished as the Xbox hardware name is, mainly because no one really wants one, having Xbox on a box might be enough to kind of sell people on the fact that it is in some respects an Xbox handheld. I think that's cool because back in the day when YouTube launched, I mean, those were the videos that were being passed around the lunchroom at my elementary and middle school, right? Like the videos where some guy created an Xbox 720 handheld prototype and everyone was like, Nintendo has a handheld, PlayStation has a handheld, I want to play Halo on the go, whereas the Xbox handheld, and it never happened. So they could capture just a little bit of the nostalgia for mainstream people who grew up with an Xbox or an Xbox 360. So yeah, some interesting stuff happening in the world of gaming handhelds. If you watched the end of the video, I really appreciate it. Hopefully you're enjoying these news updates. I've really been working hard on this channel. I'm messing around with shorts too. I'm trying to make sure they're all killer, no filler. I've been doing some game settings. I've been doing general tips. I'm going to work some quick news blasts in there as well. So if you see a short from Deck Ready, give it a chance, because it's not just going to be recycled content for my videos. I'm actually working to make sure it's new stuff. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in this one. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.